Yeah, I'll just say a few words and then start, and then I'll throw it to you.
Okay, the recording is on. Welcome, Pratik. It's good to see you. Thank you for supporting this today. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark, for inviting.
It's good
Happy to be here.
Have you. I know you're not Northwestern, but you are an MEM alum, and we honor that.
Yes. Thank you for inviting me.
I should say MEMPC alum. How's that?
Indeed.
Mark, we'll give everyone a few more minutes, I guess, whenever you're ready.
I'm ready now if you want to get started, Bob. I thought you wanted to say a few words to start.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you all for attending. We'll probably have a few folks joining us as we progress. I apologize for the quality of my audio. I'm on my phone. So my name is Bob Burke. I'm the Region 4 Conference Chair. So, and we have a long relationship with Northwestern University and with Mark in particular. This is the second in a series of panels we've had. The last one we had was transition from engineer to manager. And Mark had asked us if we could do another one, or if we want to do another one on the role of a product manager. So obviously it's something I haven't done before, so very interesting. Mark is part of the engineering. He's the director of the Master of Engineering Management program, which full disclosure, I'm a graduate of in 2003, and he's a professor at Northwestern. And I'll let him introduce his folks. Thank you, Mark, for doing this again, and looking forward to a good talk.
No problem, Bob. Thank you, and thank you for all the attendees and panelists who are attending today. We appreciate your time on a beautiful Saturday morning. At least it's beautiful here in Chicago. We've got about 4 panelists who've agreed to attend today and support this session specific to the topic of product management and the role of product management and how engineers can support that in the field. The 4 panelists are, 2 of them are Northwestern alum. 1 of them is a supporter of the Northwestern MEM program, and a 4th is an MEMPC alum. I'm going to go through and introduce them in order that they dialed into the call today. And as I introduce them, I'm going to ask them to go into a little bit more detail about themselves and also what responsibilities product management has in their organization. So first up, of course, is Fizza Jaffer. Fizza was an MEM alum from Northwestern University. I want to say about 4 years ago. Is that about right, Fizza?
Yes, time has flown. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. We don't want to put any more years on it than we have to. So Fizza, I'll let you introduce yourself in more detail and talk about product management at American Express, because I think you've been into Amex pretty much since you graduated.
Yes, that's true. Thanks, Mark, and thank you everyone for having me here. As you know, I'm Fizza, and I'm a product manager at American Express, where I own the customer demographic data, and we power that by cutting-edge APIs within the enterprise. Apart from working on an API-based platform at American Express, I also had the opportunity to ideate and launch a 0-to-1 web-based product, which was pretty much reliving my PM class taught by Professor Birju at Northwestern MEM. At Amex, we work with large teams, which we often call trains. So when there's a product launch, we work with around 20, 30 orchestrating product teams alone. And then there are engineering teams as well to kind of make sure that the launch is seamless and all the orchestrating systems are giving us the data that we need. So since it's a big company there, we have data sources that are legacy, we have data sources that are new, and we often have to work to ensure all the systems are working in tandem with each other with no data quality being impacted, because that leads to bad customer experience, and Amex is, prides at their customer service. Right. So my day-to-day work requires a lot of collaboration with engineering, and I learn a lot from them each day. We ideate together, we brainstorm together, we have disagreements, we come to alignments together, but we all commit to like a common goal for successful product launch. So that's what my day essentially looks like.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Fizza. That's fascinating. Next up will be Nolan Bello. Nolan is the Director of Digital Products at Volt Lighting. Nolan graduated from Northwestern MEM. I'm not sure exactly what year.
2004.
2004. Perfect.
Yeah.
So that's right in line with close to when Bob Burke graduated.
Yep.
I'll let you take it from here, Nolan. I'm sure you've got a fascinating story as well.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Nolan Bello, Director of Digital Product Solutions at Volt Lighting, an outdoor landscape lighting manufacturer. I have been doing product management in some way, shape, or form since about 2006. Generally, I've always viewed product manager as essentially a CEO, a mini CEO of a product line, very much an advocate for the product, whether it's software or whether it's, physical manufacturing. And I've actually been on both sides of it, both manufacturing and software. And what I do today is more IoT and smart home, which kind of combines both sides of it. But strategic planning, financial analysis, competitive analysis, essentially the product manager, to me, what it boils down to is you become the advocate for the product and ensuring that that product or service or software delivery solves the customer need. And I would add to that, solves the customer need as simply as possible. Many times products can go astray because maybe they're too complicated. They'll still provide the right outcome, but they're maybe too complicated. Just so in my experience, the most effective products and the most effective services are the ones that do it elegantly and do it simply. So that's really, in my mind, the biggest role of a product manager is being that advocate for that customer outcome, but then taking ownership of that, really having to coordinate with different aspects, all aspects of the company. If you think of a bicycle wheel, the product manager is that hub, not the spokes, but they're managing and coordinating with all these different aspects of the organization.
All right. Thank you, Nolan. I love your IoT connections. We've been teaching a lot of IoT principles and technologies in our classes the last 5 or 6 years. We even have a Nuvention course specific to IoT. And your point about simplicity is amazing, because I was making that just a few days ago that sometimes the most sophisticated technologies are the ones that appear to be the most simple to the user, right? And engineering simplicity is not a simple task, right? I mean, it actually takes a lot of forethought to say, okay, how is the customer really going to use this, and how can you streamline the interface so that, in essence, you make it mistake proof, right?
That's right. Right.
So there's only one way it can work, right?
Yeah, that's right. And real quick, so I've always had a philosophy of if I'm the company and providing the product, if it's simple for me, it's going to be complicated for the end user. If it's complicated for me, it's going to be simple for the end user, and that's what we want. So
there you go. It's interesting. You take the burden on yourselves.
That's right. Instead
of pushing the burden to your customer. I guess I'm thinking about IKEA. I guess where would IKEA fit on that spectrum? But that's a whole different topic, right? It seems like they push the burden to their customers to say, "You assemble this. There's 1,000 parts. Good luck with that."
There's always exceptions to the rule.
Okay, next up is Eric. Eric Rivera Ricard is the Senior Product Manager at Motorola Solutions. He is not an MEM alum, but he's very tightly coupled to the MEM program here at Northwestern. We appreciate everything he does for us and has done for us. Eric just recently volunteered to have a tour of Motorola Solutions in early January, and we look forward to that tour. So Eric, take it away from here. I guess you can maybe tell us more about your your background, your role at Motorola, and what is the role of product management at Motorola?
Sure. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, everybody. So I'm a senior product manager at Motorola Solution. What I do is I manage the application services portfolio on our public safety flagship portal devices that we call smart radios. These applications cover advanced location services, instant response, messaging, and tactical collaborations, which are key for first responders in order to enhance field responder and dispatchers communication. So it's an end-to-end solution, basically, we're working at the company. So yeah, what does a product manager do? I think we've got very good input already in the call, so I'm not going to repeat too much myself. But yeah, we definitely define the vision of the product. We lead the product team, which include the user experience designer, the architect, and the engineer, which I think is going to be a key person in today's discussion. And we're trying to solve the problems in a way that help our customers and the business. So if I had to summarize it in just one sentence.
That's great. In fact, I'm trying to teach our students how to summarize their value proposition in a very crisp and clean manner, and that's great. I in full disclosure, I worked for Motorola Solutions for about 20 plus years of my career, so I'm intimately aware of the Astro, Smart Zone product lines that I'm sure are part and parcel of what Eric works with every day. If people aren't aware, Motorola Solutions is a world-class solutions provider for mostly 911 type systems for municipalities and state and local government. Is that a good way of summarizing it, Eric?
Absolutely. Thank you.
And we've been doing it, they've been doing it for such a long time. And frankly, being probably the master in that industry, and I can say this because Eric won't, but what 90% market share is not atypical for Motorola Solutions. And there's a reason for that. They've dominated for a long time because they really have this pretty well nailed. So welcome, Eric. Thank you for being here today. Next up is Pratik Kamisra. Pratik is a MEM alum from Johns Hopkins University. I know he's product manager at MasterCard, but I also know he's got a lot of product management experience, which he's shared in other venues, including, I think, panel sessions over at Hopkins. So welcome, Pratik. It's good to have you. It's good to have a non-Northwestern point of view, at least occasionally. So why don't you give us your story, Pratik?
Sure. Thanks, Mark. Hey, everyone. This is Pratik Kamisra. As Mark introduced, I'm a Johns Hopkins MEM grad of class of 2015. Oh, it's been a while. So a bit of background about myself. So I'm currently product manager at MasterCard, where I lead their Buy Now, Pay Later, which is their MasterCard installment solution. So some of you might have seen the Apple Pay Later launch. So I'm the guy who's behind the Apple Pay Later, their Buy Now, Pay Later program. Within MasterCard, I've worked on different products. So this is my third product on MasterCard. Before that, I previously worked on something. If you ever walked into Whole Foods, saw this weird panel for where you have to pay using their palm. So I worked on that technology, which is Amazon One, where you can use your palm to make payments. As well as I work on the tokenization, which everyone uses the Apple Pay or Google Pay for their payments. Prior to MasterCard, I worked with JP Morgan on the Chase side for close to 3 years. So some of the products there I launched was Chase offers. So if any of you had the Chase cards, might have seen scroll down a button called Chase offers. I'm the guy responsible for it. If you hate me, you can blame me. So and also worked on the internal KYC platform. Also before that, I spent some time with McKinsey in the consulting, doing some of the consulting work for studies for Fed and few other financial consultant. And yeah, I'm basically electrical engineer and work as a software engineer a few years too. So now what do I do at MasterCard? So my typical day, to be very honest, right? It's probably spend half my day in meetings. I'm not kidding. That's the reality. Like if someone tells you what product manager life looks like, it's probably on your AirPods. That's where I spend most of my time on. And why is it that? Because as a product manager, you are nothing but a bridge. You're a bridge between your product and different stakeholders, whether it's the legal, whether it's engineering, whether it's friends like your marketing team, or it's your business or your client, you are the guy responsible for. And trust me, getting everyone aligned on common goals, it's what a product manager's role is. So obviously, my responsible is basically of the ownership. So I keep talking about ownership because as a product manager, you probably would have to spend a lot of time owning the product, its flaws, and it's you sometimes you might have to do some. I always call it. You want something in, you want to take out something else. So there's always scoping, descoping that always happen. And you're also responsible for writing features, taking it through prioritization, and getting things done. At the end of the day, your role is adding value to the company, and the value you can add is by managing the end-to-end process of the product. That's a bit about overview, and we'll talk more about over the course of session. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Pratik. That was excellent. I'm starting to collect these analogies. I've heard a few from Nolan and a few from you. I've heard bridge, hub and spoke, mini CEO, owner. Some of this relates to the mentality, I think, the thought process, the orientation. And I'll be honest with you, that does take some realignment in, I guess, the engineer's perspective, if you ask me. The engineer who thinks of himself or herself as an employee, or perhaps as a worker, right, now has to orient himself or herself as an owner, as an orchestrator, as an integrator, as a bridge, as the hub in that hub and spoke that Nolan talked about. The last one that we have on our panelists today is Karishma Mandal. Karishma is a product manager at SagePath. Karishma graduated from MEM a few years ago. So welcome, Karishma. It's great to have you. You have a nice bright background there. So it looks like a very sunny day. I'm sorry we're taking you away from that.
Oh, I'm in Chicago, so it's a sunny day for all of us, I guess.
There you go. Well, we're not all in Chicago. Fizz is in New York. So we've got people, Eric's actually in Europe. So we're all over the place today.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you for having me today. I started my journey as an MEM. I think most of you are from the program as well. And I was a product manager in SAP back in my co-op days. I completed that for 9 months. I moved to SagePath. And very recently, actually on November 2nd, I moved my company and now I'm a product manager at CVS and managing their healthcare finance product that I'm doing right now. So I think mostly about the overview of a product manager, what they do. I think we've heard a lot from Fizza, Nolan, Pratik, Eric, everyone. And it's definitely the scope of owning the product, being the bridge, also being a very good customer representative and someone who can analyze the market trends. Now that I'm talking in CVS and we speak a lot to the actual customers and how the healthcare industry is going to move. So that's a bit of a learning curve for me, but that comes with only when you have a forward-looking attitude towards it, where you see everything and you see the market trends and you want to compete in a space where it's a DTC or a B2B. You have to make sure that you see the customer, you hear the customer, and you build accordingly. And definitely over the course of this panel, we're going to discuss a lot of it. And I think I really want to help you all. So given it, bring on your questions because we will actually answer it today. So yeah, I'd really like students to ask a lot of questions today.
Well, they'll have plenty of chance. I only have a few questions, as you guys know, and then the rest will be up to the audience. So the audience, please start queuing up your questions. Write them down, or if you have to, you can put them in the chat and we can bring them up later. So the chat window is open. We are looking at it. My first question, I guess, is, please describe why engineers make good product managers and what unique skills they bring to product management. I don't know, who would like to go first? Because we're all engineers here. I'm wondering if we actually bring something unique, or is it just something that engineers like to do? Eric, seems like you want to go first. Go ahead.
I can go first. So, I like to talk about unique skills in two different contexts. First of all, in the product management role itself, and then in the context of the product team. So when we think about the product management role, well, there's actually two key tasks, right? One of them is that when you're transitioning to a new position, regardless of the position, you need to know, in this case, the PDM role know-how, and then you need to understand the underlying industry, the nature of the product, in-depth knowledge, right? So, well, if you're already an engineer, you already have an advantage here because you already have one of the assets that you know, right? So that can be already a differentiator to kick off your career in product management. On the other hand, from the product team perspective, right? So when we think about everybody involved in the team, I clearly see a communication advantage with other engineers. You speak the same language. You have an ability to understand and challenge them as well. That's an advantage. And at the same time, I think there's an ability to develop probably an easier, an intuition and a more in-depth view in the solution space to better guide the product team in the right direction. And by the way, that could be also an issue that I will cover later on, right? But it's definitely, my opinion, an advantage. I'll probably add a couple more things. Another, key unique skills. Well, is the engineering mindset, with the idea of, probably we're going to see more analytic and data-driven decisions coming from engineers than probably, other profiles, but I don't want to generalize here, but it's just a thought. And then in some cases, well, it may be just a job requirement. Some PDM roles may really require that background, such as a technical product manager position, right? So these are probably like the main skills that I see. And then, and always, I probably always say that every time we have an engineering question with product management, being an engineer is not a prerequisite to become an excellent product manager. Just disclosure here, right? But I think it certainly helps. It does.
And especially when if you have a technical product management role, it usually is prerequisite, right? But not every product management role is a technical product management role. So since you opened that Pandora's box, let me follow up with what is the difference then? I mean, what is a technical product manager versus one that is non-technical, right? Is it the nature of the product that drives that, or is it the nature of the analysis that's expected?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. If you ask, for us what we do, yeah, it's the nature of the role, right? So when you go to a technical product manager role, you're really gonna need to have a depth of knowledge much more significant in the technical things. I mean, your customers are probably gonna be engineers as well. You need to speak the same language as those customers, but it's really gonna be the very, engineering world centric, both for the problem space, right? And also the solution space definition.
So interesting. So that's more B2B, I guess, right? And if it's your customer is an engineer, then more than likely it's B2B versus B2C. So
well, even if I could, to build on that though, Eric, I completely agree with you. I think what I've seen is also though a tendency to, to lend credibility. The more technical a product is, the more credibility you will have as a product manager when you're proposing a solution, when you're gathering information, because a lot of times, and I've been in the B2B and both B2B and B2C, and especially in B2B, where you're meeting with the customer and you're trying to have empathy with them, and you're trying to understand, put yourselves in their shoes, understand their problems. You have a lot more credibility when you say, you know what, I have an engineering background, I have an engineering degree, I come from an engineering, lineage or whatever the case may be. Having that credibility will help open up that dialogue a lot better, because in their minds they'll be like, okay, this person understands what I'm talking about, and they can usually speak more freely and more openly. So that is an inherent advantage that someone with an engineering background will you definitely have.
All right, Pratik, you had your hand up next.
Yes. So I think, Mark, this is one of the most common questions that I get from any aspiring product manager. What is the difference between technical PM and a PM? So I'll tell you from a MasterCard perspective, we have 3 product manager roles, not even 2. We have a PMT, which is more aligned towards project manager. So formerly it used to be known as project manager, where you're responsible for the entire roadmap. Think about from like getting it delivered, more from the implementation delivery point of view. Then we have the TPM, which is technical product manager, where it's more engineering focus. where you are responsible for writing more technical stories, user stories, and dealing with more engineering. And then we have a PM role, which is more towards business and more towards the end-to-end process. So in nutshell, right, if you look at the graph or any spectrum, right, the PM, traditional PM role is more towards the business side. TPM is more towards the technical, product manager is more towards the engineering side. That's how the if you want to like in a very easy way define it, those two roles.
Got it. Okay, Fizza.
And based on your strengths, you can decide which career suits best for you.
Wow, and I guess the students on campus don't necessarily understand some of these subtle distinctions between these roles, but that's fascinating. I think Fizza, you were next.
Yes, so I just related with what Nolan just said, understanding the language. So when Prateek speaks, I feel like he's talking about American Express too, maybe because we're from the same industry, right? So I just wanted to add on a little bit. Pretty much like MasterCard, American Express has also something called product owner. A lot of companies adopt agile methodologies. Some choose not to. At American Express, we practice SAFe. And in that framework of agility, we have a role called PO, which is a product owner. We have a role of product manager. And this role could be more project management leaning, or it could be more business leading, depending on which team you're working with. So job description plays a very important role in determining what work you're going to do hands-on there. But from I've been following what's happening in the industry lately, and I think what's also happening is that a lot of TPM roles are essentially PO roles as well, where you are liaising as a product owner with a product manager who is speaking to the customer, getting requirements from the product manager and writing more technical features with the engineering team. So you're essentially owning your Scrum team's backlog, right? So there's a bifurcation. So in some companies, a PM would do that end to end. They would be the main person talking to the customer, also writing the features, and also working with the design and the Scrum team. And in some companies, these roles are a little bifurcated. And I see a lot of TPM roles are also product owner roles, where you will be a little bit business, but mostly leaning towards engineering for collaboration and defining and writing the features for delivery. So I think because I also had a chance to work with T-Mobile, I've realized that in every company, the title product manager varies. Within these companies, also within team to team, the title can vary. So if you are looking to hop on a PM role, it's very essential to know what product you're working on, what is the vision, what is your hands-on day-to-day going to be like, and then decide if that is something you are aspiring for. And it could be anything, technical, business, anything of that sort. And another dimension to engineers selecting how they want to really break into it is also to see whether they want to work on a mature product or they are okay with working on a discovery-based product that is more 0 to 1, where things are more ambiguous. I know as an engineer, it can be a little tough when PMs say, let's pivot and let's kill the product. Are you okay with that? Are you okay to build something, have it shelved, build something, have it shelved, till the business approves that, okay, let's move ahead with this MVP. That is one comfort zone that is essential to be aware of. Am I that kind of a person, or do I want to work on something that's already there, I can see, feel, work with, and maybe deploy more features to? So I think these are two important things that will also determine the morale of the engineering team. So if you're switching to a PM role, know what kind of a product is, which maturity stage it is on, and whether it's a PM role, PO, TPM, read the job description, see if that aligns with your core values and who you are as a person. How often do you want to communicate and things like that.
All right. Thank you, Fizza. I think Karishma, you look like you want to jump in.
Yes, I want to jump into the discussion for sure. So going back to the question, how engineers can really contribute to the product, it's going to be about what background or skills you're bringing in. Because everyone is a student, and I was a student just a year ago. I knew all of my cohort when they got a product management job. A friend of mine who was from an electrical background, now manages an electrical product. I had my computer software degree and I understood the digital space. And that's what I got my first job as a digital product manager, where my product was a ERP tool. So leveraging your previous background becomes necessary as you're coming out of being a student. And that is why being an engineer really helps, because you have a knowledge of the product itself. MEM gave you the business point of view, it gave you the management skills. And now when you understand your product, you can manage it better with your software developer, with your analyst, with your testers. You can understand the market trends. So getting that MEM program really helps you build the business aspect of understanding a product. So when you have a bridge, or when you have like this merger of these two skills of being technical and business, it will really help you. So go back, see what kind of knowledge you bring, and that's what you're going to show it on your interview skills. You're going to say that I understand the product better than most product managers that would come without the domain knowledge. And now that you have a domain knowledge, leverage it to you. So being an engineer definitely helps in that way. At least it helped me move into my digital space and get my first ERP job. Secondly, how technical product management and product management is different. Of course, you had wealth of information coming from all the panel. If I had to add on, it's different in different companies. As Feza said, it's definitely a different role. You have to read the job description. You have to see, because my role on my offer letter that I signed, or the job I applied, is called a senior decision scientist. It has nothing to do with being a PM. And if you Google that job, you wouldn't even find it. You would find different. So it's a different job description, or a different designation, I would say. It is very different in different companies, but the role remains basically the same, where you're identifying the KPIs, where you're building the roadmap, where you're talking to the customers, where you're writing your requirements, your user stories, and you're conversing with your product owner, how the sprint should look like. So that is my day-to-day, and it depends on the company what they want to call. So you have to really look into the job description. Just don't blindly apply, I would say. Go ahead, look at the role, look at the description, and then maybe take a decision on if this is the role fit for you. And it will differ based on the companies and the business unit that you're joining.
What I try to tell folks that are thinking about joining an MEM program is that you're combining, obviously, your engineering background and skills. You're not abandoning them.
Yeah.
You're building on them, the management and business acumen that can provide a different layer of value add to the organization, right? And I think you just described that beautifully, Karishma. I mean, effectively, you're saying, if you came from a EE background or CS background, you build on that and you leverage that. You don't abandon that. So unlike, for example, some folks that do MBA programs, they often feel like they have to abandon their engineering in order to pursue business. And that's more or less the opposite of what we try to do with MEM. So any other comments, or should we move on? I guess we have some questions. I think we'll deal with some of the questions from the audience after we go through some of the predefined questions that we laid out. So the flip side of the question I just asked would be the opposite, right? Is there a time when engineers are not good candidates for product management? Or is there a time when being an engineer works contrary to being a good product manager? Pratik, you're unmuted. Is that by default? By design?
No, I was gonna okay, I have a thought on this one.
Okay.
So I'll tell you I always take anecdotes from my own life. So I'll tell you my year-end feedback, which is true, which is don't be too technical. So I think someone said that it's our strength. My manager told me a very good feedback, like you have a tendency to go into solutioning. Like instantly I see a problem, I go into let's solve this. Let's see which system is being impacted, how the data will flow from X system to Y system. Let's brainstorm and let's solve the solution. He's like, wait, that's not the right way. Always start with why. Why are we trying to do it? Get the requirements. Spend more time on analyzing the problem before jumping into solution. So as an engineer, I'm designed to jump into solution right there and solve the how. Instead, now I'm not saying I'm good at it. I'm still trying to ask why. Why are we trying to do it? What's the business value? Because it's important, especially when you're communicating to the senior folks. And I think one takeaway I'll give you everyone, like the more senior the person is, the less technical knowledge is. And you have to explain like a 5-year-old kid. There's another feedback that I got in one of my year-end reviews was explain a problem if you're explaining to 8-year-old kid, because that's the way any senior executive like EVP or SVP will understand what you're trying to sell. And that's how you can move your product ahead, because at the end of the day, you are competing for same resources, same prioritization. And if you can't explain, if you go too technical, you lost it. You're not gonna get any value. So my advice, yes, engineering is a strength when you are being technical, is a strength when you're talking to engineering team, but when not, you're talking to business. So make sure you focus on communication, like a plain English, to explaining it to a 8-year-old kid.
And
That's
even
my
when
thought.
you're talking to engineers, you have to be careful that you don't disempower the engineers. If you
That's
don't,
true, indeed.
if you start saying this is the answer, then the engineers will sit back and say, okay, let's see how well that works. They may very well know that it won't work, and maybe they're setting you up to fail. So you have to be
True.
careful to not disempower your engineers.
And
So-
another, it's not to cut you, Mark, another thought that came to my another go-to phrase, your engineers are your best friend.
Exactly.
So as a product manager, you'll have a lot of best friends, don't tell them. But at that time, you're gonna tell them, hey, make the it's all about relationship, because at the end of the day, those engineers will help you drive your product. So make them your new best friend.
But yeah, you
That's
don't
it.
tell your best friend how to live their lives, right?
Yes.
I mean, obviously you can ask questions, but you can't dictate how the terms of their life and how they operate. So I see the sequence here: Nolan, Fizza, and then Eric. I guess that was the sequence that you raised your hand. So Nolan, you're next.
All right, thanks. Yeah, Pratik, I think 100%. I totally agree with that. Communication is probably the biggest challenge for engineers. Just engineers just being again very analytical. In my experience, product managers, one of the biggest things that they have to do is learn how to communicate up, and managing expectations of your upper VPs, directors, CEOs, to whatever level. That requires a skill of how to simplify communications, how to speak with brevity, but being concise and to the point. And then when it comes to the customer, again, having that empathy with the customer and putting yourselves in that customer's shoes. One of the things that I've noticed that engineers have a tendency to do is, especially if they were, actually actively involved in coming up with a solution, they'll have the, my baby is the prettiest baby syndrome, where, hey, this is the solution that we've come up with. And then you take it to the customer and they're like, well, yeah, it's not quite hitting the mark, but they're too insistent upon, oh, because this was our solution, it's the best solution. Having, I'll use the word humility in the sense that that openness to the fact that, hey, there may be a better solution, there may be a simpler solution, a more concise solution. That's not what you're proposing. And sometimes that's a difficult concept for engineers to grasp, because by their nature, engineers are going to try and optimize every solution that they have. And sometimes the ability to step back and see the bigger picture and understand what is really the customer's problem and are you solving it as simply as possible is a challenge. And it is a learned skill. It's an acquired skill. And all I would say is that being in that role, learning to manage up, and that whole that customer simplicity piece of it, very similar types of skills. But once you get to that point and you're able to have that level of communication, you'll become much more very, very successful and very effective.
So I guess one thing I learned along my career is that many times there's more than one right answer. And I guess you learn that in law school, but you don't necessarily learn that in engineering school. In engineering school, there's often one and only one right answer, and anything less than that has a decrement or demerit to it. The real world of products and product development, as you can see in the variety of products that are out there, I mean, you could argue the Android and the iOS are equally good answers to the same problem. Fizza, I think you're next.
Yeah, I just also wanted to bring another dimension to determining whether a particular PM role would set an engineer up for a success, is to essentially determine how much collaboration does this role require. All PM roles are heavily collaborative. there are a lot of calls. And one of the things that engineers often face a challenge about is the fact that their dev time goes into these stakeholder calls and alignments and things like that, right? So what kind of a product is it? Is it being ideated by the PM and you are helping it launch and come together as a team? Or is the PM just a liaising factor and you are the ideators? You are coming up with a better technology and you are driving the vision. Where is it that it aligns with your personality also? Because a lot of my engineering friends tell me that, hey, we just want to build the product. I don't want to be in meetings. I don't want to be doing XYZ. I just want to launch my thing and achieve my target. So although no PM role is going to allow an engineer to do that, but in your level of introvertness, extrovertness, some people thrive on collaboration. I thrive on collaboration. Some people like to sit with ideation and form proper product. So what kind of a product you're working with is essential. How much collaboration that will need? Is it PM led? Is it engineering led? That is also very important to know when you're signing up for a PM role or switching to that.
I love it. That's great. I think, Eric, you want to build on that? And then Karishma.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Yeah, so just taking a step back, right? I like to talk about, those challenges for engineers, the background, right? So what does an engineer really do? They help solve problems and create solutions. They own that space. However, a product manager, we define the vision of the product and lead the product team in the right direction because we want to achieve good product market fit. So the engineer is in the solution space, right? While product manager is in the problem space. So it's different areas. So we need to know as product managers, our customers, the business, the market, and its need. So that said, it leads to three challenges that I like to list. The first one, and Pratik, you touched on that, we start with the why, and Fitz also, you touched a little bit more on that, which is inside out versus outside in product definition, right? So think about those spaces, problem versus solutions. I mean, you need to start with a market problem, not a solution. Otherwise, you may even solve problems that do not exist. I've seen that in the past. Your perspective is not always going to be your end user's perspective. That's something you need to open your eyes as an engineer there, and you need to listen. You need to accept that your ideas may be rejected. So humility here is needed, right? The second challenge that I clearly see, and Nolan, you touched on that also, is the concept of optimization versus the right user experience. So, engineering really focus on productivity, improving development, and efficiency. How can we be better every day? Product management instead should focus more on delivering the best user experience overall. So one of the main goals is to meet the market and our customer needs, as I said. So you may have to iterate in different ways on a solution and even not being afraid of throwing away work, right? Iteration as part of this agility concept. And maybe the third challenge, which may not apply to everybody, but it's basically interacting with previous engineers, peers, if you happen to transition and you stay in the same team. And by the way, that applies not only for product managers, but basically any engineer transitioning to another role in the company. I've seen that with program managers as well in my team. So other engineers may challenge you for not being technology-centric anymore, right? So it's a little bit of a shift of a mindset here. They may also be sensitive on you, speaking on their behalf or even committing their work. And you may have to let go engineering decisions. Sometimes it's not easy, but it's not your role anymore, and you need to accept that, right? So, with that said, I definitely encourage any engineer willing to become a product manager to think about these challenges. Mark, you asked a question about what will not make a good candidate, a person to become, engineering than a product manager.
Right.
I probably think here about three quick things. So if you prefer to be in the solution space instead of the problem space, so you want to create and conceive solutions, maybe that's not the best path for you. If you don't enjoy talking and developing empathy with your customers, maybe that's not the best path for you. And if you don't want to take on a leadership role.
And that last point in terms of being a leader is something that I talk about in my project management class quite a bit. Not everyone is cut out to be a leader. And recognize that when you are a leader, you're under a microscope. People watch every move you make. They listen to every word you say. They might even twist it and turn it into things that you didn't intend. And you're going to have to learn clarity, succinctness, and also this kind of presence that people are going to be willing to listen to you, and being willing to stand up and be looked at when everyone else is looking at you. And that's not for everybody. Some people just do not embrace that. Once they're in it, they want to run away from it, frankly. So I think Karishma, you had your hand up earlier. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah. I think I don't want to say, but maybe I'm the newest product manager in the panel, and I still struggle from like curbing my engineering instinct and then being a product manager. I'm still in that phase of transition, I would say. And one of the things that I've learned is, as an engineer, I had a limited focus on my module, on looking at, oh, what is my particular thing interacting with, and that used to be the only thing that I would focus on. If everything is running in my space, it's good. But in product management, you need to have a broader vision, and as broad as you can get, that is better for you. If you can start thinking of how your company makes revenue, then how your product fits into that revenue system, then how your product is interacting with other products within the other business units. So getting all of that perception and making sense of it in my head, I think that took a lot of time for me, and not just being focused on my own one module aspect, or just focusing on one problem that we are creating or we're solving. It's not just that. It's really important to have a very big picture. And at any given point in time, as engineers, I don't know who all does it, but I used to study the last day. I used to submit my assignments on the last given hour. And that's not what you can do as a product manager. You have to be on your feet. As a product manager, you have to bring all the information from day one. You have to guide all the engineers of what you're going to do. So you need to have the answers from day one. You cannot afford to be on the last day of delivery. Oh, this is my deliverable to be done. You're not going to achieve your deliverable. Definitely, you're going to be late on your sprint. So making and curbing that instinct and being prepared from day one is certain things that I've learned in this year. And just being focused, just having a really broad picture, and always having a forward outlook. I think that's something that has to be stopped.
So I got to ask, Karishma, since you are
Yeah.
probably the newest product manager on the panel,
Right.
are you encouraged about the role, or are you kind of a little discouraged with the role? I mean, is it something that you thought it was going to be?
I knew what it was. I knew that I wanted to be a product manager, and for till now that's true. But I did not know how much of work that would be. It's not your 9 to 5. Anybody who says product management is 9 to 5, it's a lie. Do not believe it. 9 to 5 is definitely my meetings. Yesterday was Friday. I had 7 hours of meeting, and then I had to go back and retrospect on the meeting and make user stories of everything that I've collected. So it's a lot of accountability and ownership. And if you can take that kind of responsibility at this phase, I think go ahead, apply for the product management role that looks good to you. But if you think still now you don't want to be in a position where you're a leader, then I think maybe you want to experience more into engineering, take on some leadership roles, and then navigate towards your transition.
Got it. Okay. I guess I could say that for almost every role that I've had in my career. If you're working 9 to 5, there's probably something wrong. If you're working 9 to 5, then you're probably not at your best. You're not bringing your best to the game. And when you are at your best, time it becomes almost irrelevant. You just start to work past the clock. You don't even look at the clock when you're working. And
Yes.
when you're there, you're probably in the zone, and you're probably getting close to your best possible performance. So the next question, if I can move on to the next question, which is, I think what might be on the minds of some of the folks on the call today, how can engineers prepare themselves to become a product manager? And we can set aside the obvious, which is to pursue an MEM degree, which I think all of us share. But if we set aside that statement, and it's just like, what can you do? What skills can you acquire? What mindset? What can you do to prepare? Any thoughts? No thoughts at all. None.
Yeah, I can.
I
I'm
finally
happy to
stumped
jump
I thought I stumped the panel here, Nolan, but you've got an answer. Thank
Okay,
you. The
yeah.
director on the panel has the answer.
Oh yeah. Oh, hardly. If we're looking for me to for the final answers, we're in trouble. No, no. I separate this. I kind of bifurcate this into two things. There's kind of the soft skills and the hard skills. The easy one's the hard skills, right? You're gonna have to learn things like financial analysis, market research, techniques, lots of things that thankfully the MEM really prepares you well for. And in fact, I have to say shout out to the MEM, because a lot of my ability to be able to relate to this came from my skills that I learned in the MEM program. So there's that, and that's it's a very finite, very measurable thing that you can learn, and you can practice it, you can get better at it. But to me, the more important thing, and we've already kind of been harping on this, is really the soft skills, the communication skills, the empathy, the humility, and even also things like administrative things. The product manager, is to Mark's point, is there's a spotlight on the product manager. So, doing what you say you're going to do, being on time, being prepared, following up with people. So there's a lot of also the project management skills that are involved in becoming an effective product manager, but that go a long way in being able to be an effective product manager. And that whole combination is not, you can't always learn all those things from a book. So my advice to someone who's considering going into that is find ways where you can get more exposure to those kinds of things. Maybe not all at once, maybe, a little bit more project management, maybe a little bit more dealing with marketing. Hey, can I be involved in preparing for this meeting? And that will get your mindset into being used to, having all those things in one kind of skill set. Because at the end of the day, another analogy is, product manager is kind of the host of a party. And if the host, if the party host is not ready, they don't have all, the space isn't rented, the music isn't there, and all that stuff. People will see that, and that's all stuff that has to be learned. But you can step into it, and you can learn little aspects of it, kind of one at a time.
Okay, as you were speaking, it occurred to me that, in a sense, you go from the invisible to the visible, right? The engineer, the typical engineer, frankly, is largely invisible to senior management. I mean,
yep.
Occasionally the engineer pops above the waterline and says, "Here I am." But it's the product manager that lives above the waterline, and it's just like, I'm here all the time. And
yeah, you are the face of the product or of the product line or the platform. Absolutely.
Right. Thank you, Nolan. So I have Pratik next, and then Eric, and then I believe Fizza, and maybe Charisma after that. So, okay, let's go in that order. Pratik.
Sure. I'll probably break down this under three simple steps. So I think the first step, and this might be for any career you might want to pursue, is to get the professional knowledge. Now, it could be like an MEM or any other grad school, or there's tons of courses on Scrum Alliance, get your CSPO certification, or maybe just YouTube, or just go old school, get a book on product management, read product management is. So this is true for any career, what you want to do, get the professional knowledge. Now, step two, how do you get into? For an engineer, the easiest way to transition into product management is through internal. So there's always an internal opening that your company might have, and that's the easiest way to get into a role. Go talk to a product manager and build a relationship, start shadowing and take over what exactly the product manager role is, learn the ropes, and transition internally within your company. That's the easiest way you can land a product management role. Now, externally, yes, you can apply to a role, but most of the product, it's like a very tricky situation. Most product roles require experience. As an engineer that you don't have an experience, it's always it's like a catch-22, Mark. It's always a catch-22. So get an experience internally and then go externally, get your dream job. And third, which is true for any career that you do, sell your unique story. We all are unique. We have like, I'm sure 20, 25 people. We all have a unique story to tell. Sell your unique story in whatever way you can.
I guess if I can add on to that, tolerance for ambiguity, right? So you talked about catch-22. In my tech strategy class, we spent a lot of time talking about the chicken and egg scenario, where if you have a product, let's say it's an Apple iPhone, it doesn't make much sense until there's an ecosystem that can support the iPhone, which is a library of applications. So, but who's going to write applications for a product that doesn't exist? So you get into this whole thing of what comes first, the applications or the phone, this whole chicken and egg. EV chargers don't make sense until there's EVs on the road. EVs on the road don't make sense unless there's chargers. So you get this whole chicken and egg, and frankly, whole industries wrestle with this very problem for, in many cases, for years at a time. So, okay, Pratik, thank you. Eric, you were next, and then I think it was Viza and Charisma.
Yeah, thanks. So just to build on, what we said. So, no, I completely agree, to start developing soft skills and also the hard skills. I think that's key. I'll probably touch on two things. So first of all, the challenges we mentioned before, it's a good opportunity if you want to get into this role to start thinking about those. For example, the inside out versus outside in product definition. So start always with a why, with a market problem, listen, accept others' perspectives, start practicing with this. The best user experience should go first over any type of engineering productivity or optimization. So a little bit of a shift of a mindset here. And also think about your future interactions with the product team, and in particular, if you're going to stay in that team, likely, then with engineering. Other key recommendations, I would say really start exploring and pay close attention to the problem space. And I'd like to add on that. Try to join. I mean, if I have to say that if you're today in a product team that has a product, the product team overall building together and working together on the problem space and the solution space, right, through iteration. So basically engineers being exposed to VOC, engineers, and the UX team all collaborating, the architect, development, PDM, right, and UX. It's going to be easier for you to transition there. So if you don't have the opportunity, maybe you as an engineer, you move to that position, and then you're going to get exposed to pretty much everything the product team is doing. And then you're going to get a good flavor of what product management is. You can work probably closer with your product manager. And that is actually like a coaching, right? Somehow, or you have like a more like smoother transition here. I'd say Mark also on that perspective you need to develop a business and management acumen, so probably through education, right? I think that's important. And why not just approach any product manager and ask them to be coached? People are kind, right? So they may be willing to help you. Don't hesitate to ask for help.
And don't be surprised when they ask for help in return. It's everything in industry is a two-way street, right? So, and you'll learn to play that two-way street as a product manager. So yeah, you're very willing to give out help as long as you can also get help in return. And that's fair. I think that's just fair in life. Viza, I think you were next.
Yeah, I think we have great insights over here. For me, I think one thing that I ask everyone who asks about breaking into PM, whether you are a new grad or you come from a different industry experience, why do you want to do it? You could grow as an engineering director. You could grow as a staff engineer. You could become, there are hierarchies within the engineering domain as well. So I would say, like, for example, at American Express, when a product launches, it's not just the PMs who are under the spotlight, it's also the engineering team. We recognize very heavily that a product is built with expertise that we don't have. Those lie with the engineers, right? So my first question would be, why do you want to switch to PM? Is it because you're not happy with your job? Is it because you're not able to get the spotlight that you need? Is it a role problem? Is it a company problem? That's a very fundamental self-awareness that needs to be brought. And then from there, the thing will be, do you want to pursue a degree? Yes, a degree will give you the fundamentals. It gave it to me. I did CSPO. I had a very good PM professor at Northwestern MEM. But I will caution you that day-to-days are very different from what we learn theoretically, right? So there it is important to know what are the ugly aspects of this role, and are you ready to sign up for it? And pretty much like what Eric said, talk to people. So talk to PMs and see what is it about the job that they don't like. Are you ready to sign up for that risk when you're pivoting into PM? Is another question that is important that has to be answered, you know? And then from there, you can probably start, like Prateek said, move internally, test the waters. Internally, you can still go back to an engineering role. It's a lot easier than changing companies and things like that. But fundamentally, it's very critical for you to know, why are you not rising within tech? Why do you want to rise within PMs? How long will it take you to get there? Where PMs, most of whom are extroverted, already have great communication skills. In case you're doubting yourself, that self-assessment and being a devil's advocate for your own career is very, very important, because most likely when you make this move, you can't come back. You can't be oscillating between the two worlds, right? So I will say take it very, very slow. Know the ugly parts of this role. Talk to people like Karishma who moved from engineering to PM, what their story was like. Does that resonate with you? And then come up with your own, trajectory.
So I'm going to underline what you just said, Fizza, because I was going to say it myself, but you said it better and you said it first. So here you go. I believe, and I think you just affirmed my belief, that product management is largely a one-way street. So if you were an engineer and you were a good engineer and you think you'll make a great product manager, just recognize that after a few years in product management, your probability of going back to the engineering world.
Lost your audio.
You've lost my audio? Can you hear me?
In between, yes. I don't know if it was just me.
Can you hear me okay, guys? Yes?
Yeah, I can hear you, Mark.
Okay. If you leave engineering to go into product management, your ability to go backwards back to engineering is close to zero. Now, there might be some companies that are very tolerant and have good memories of you, but I mean, once you leave the technical world, you're going to be largely dismissed as a technical person, and you're going to be hopefully embraced as a manager, but maybe not. So there is a little bit of a risk here that I think people need to understand, that the world of product management is not necessarily considered, even if you're a technical product manager, that you're not an engineer anymore. Karishma, you were next.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Again, like Fizza said, and everybody, I kind of don't want to echo the same thing, but we have in our class a lot of people who either got a product internship or someone who had a product job, and even professors. They all are going to be your best portal to understanding PM. As much as you sit with a panel and talk to us, instead of you working with them would give you a better understanding of what the PRD should look like, the BRD, FRD, everything that we create and how it is to be done. I think talking to the people who are right there and developing with them should be one of your first steps in understanding the role and building the skills for it. Rest, obviously, we have a product management as I think one of the pathways that MEMers can take, and then that gives you the courses that you can do, working on the project, but being true to the project. Like, you have to really put in the time and effort and create the project in a way that you would do it for a company while you're being paid as well. So when you do that, you really learn the skills before you get into the job role or before you start interviewing. So building that skill set would be important right from the day one or from the courses that you're starting to take. Other things that have really helped me crack the interview or even like be applicable for the interview or get the job would be that I knew hands-on what the product management was as a role and what I was expected of. And I built it along the lines. I did my own SQL. Like, I will just say what helped me in the past year. I did my SQL courses because I know that helps in the data product management. I built a PRD at the side because I knew a PRD would encompass everything from the problem statement to the feature to the break-even analysis, everything. And I sat with it for a couple of weeks to identify each part, and then I worked towards it to get a whole view of it. And other things that really helped me is talking to the people. Writing the user stories is one thing, but also to present in an interview where you show that you have a problem statement and this is your vision towards the solution. Giving that outlook in an interview would really help you maybe navigate through the interview and get the role of your choice, is to build the stories in a way that a company would like to hear from you. So those are some certain actionable steps you can take from now and build towards being a PM.
So do you bring these examples to the interview, a PRD or user stories or, do customer discovery documents? I mean, do you say, this is what I've done and this is how my thought process works? Does that help?
So I definitely don't bring the documents and I don't show them during the interview. But as I've created, it gave me a space where what problem statement was and how I came to the solution and my thought process of working towards a solution set. So why did I choose? What was the customer? What was the pain point? And the three options that I had as a solution and which one I picked and which one I prioritized. So giving that answer to an interview really helps, that it tells them that as a product manager, you've been in the shoe and you can navigate when circumstances come. And that's what they want to know. Can you do the job? It's not something that you will know the domain knowledge on the day one, right? You can always learn the domain and the product, but giving them the sense that you as a product manager have the right attitude and you can develop and be on your own. You don't need much navigation, because product management is a team role as well as an individual contributor role. I don't know how to explain that, but it is that way. You have to contribute it individually, and you have to always bring everybody in the vision of what you're trying to solve and what is the contribution you're bringing to the table. So giving that sense in an interview really helps, that you can do it if left at you. You can be the owner, you can be the leader, and that's what they're searching for.
Got it. Okay. I've got one last question that we're going to make a round with, and then we're going to turn it over to the audience. I can see that we've got two very interesting questions here, one from M. Cruel and the other one from Sunil. So we'll deal with that after this last question. I think this is what's uppermost in most people's minds. How is the job market right now for product managers? And I know right now it's a very turbulent time. Lots of industries are in disruption. Some of them, you could argue, maybe none of the ones on this panel, but certainly there are industries in collapse or near the early stages of collapse, okay? But how is the job market right now for product managers, and what advice would you give a prospective product manager? I guess, Eric, you were the first, and then Karishma, you were uncharacteristically, you were right in there, number 2. So normally you wait for everybody else. Pratik, you're number 3. So let's start with Eric.
All right. Yeah, Mark, to continue what you just said, these are maybe not easy times at the moment, but I always believe that product management is a key role, and in a variety of industries. I think if you want it, go for it. It's about a job and position fit, not the market timing, right? So keep trying. I agree, sometimes it may be easier, sometimes there's going to be more offers, but keep going, and it will happen at some point, right? It's just a matter of time. My overall advice would be to talk to as many product managers as possible, learn from what they do, be in touch with product managers at the companies you're interested in applying to, network as much as you can, seek for help. Don't be shy for that. It's okay, right? And I would say, do what you love, right? If that's really what you love, you will transmit it in your interviews. It will be sensed. And the last thing I will add is, when transitioning to a product management role, or be always open to other job roles and opportunities, because you never know. I think it's a very interesting journey, a very interesting path. Define your goal, go for it, but you may find interesting things along the way. Maybe other job, other positions, other opportunities you even didn't think about, right? Don't close the doors for those as well.
So to punctuate that or accentuate that, there's a great story of the founder of Zoom, CEO of Zoom, Eric Yuan. If you don't know his story, go to YouTube, go look it up. It's an amazing story. This is a man who, I think it took him 8 or 9 tries just to get into the country, to become a foreign national student in the system, to get his F1 visa, to get his, visa to H1B, working, the whole thing. It took him maybe a 15-year journey to become the CEO of Zoom. And it seemed like everything he did along the way was pointing in that direction. All of his steps along the way were collinear with becoming the founder of Zoom. But talk about persistence. Oh my God, this was a persistent man, focused, driven, and ultimately proven right by both the marketplace and the times. I mean, he literally wanted his company to scale 10x. He designed his company to scale 10x, and the pandemic hit just as he needed to scale, guess what, 10x, and he successfully did that. So Charisma, you're up.
Yes, I think I want to take this question as mine. The job search has been one really long part of the year for me, 2023. So I graduated in December 22, and then I started looking for a job. It took me around 3 months, and it was in March that I got my first offer. So to navigate the job situation right now, I would say, yes, it is difficult. It is not the best of the economy to start or being a graduate student right now in United States. I don't think this is the times where you get the roles that I was listening to was not true when I came to the actual reality of it. But going forward, you have a lot of product roles. Don't be hell-bent, or don't be looking at only the FANG companies. There are a lot of different companies. There are millions of companies who need product managers. So be okay to jump into roles. And if it's not the kind of role you want to get at first, like I got Reply and now I got CVS. So it's okay to jump until you find the role. But for now, it is important that you secure a role first. Go ahead, apply to the roles that feel good fit for you. It could be product, it could be program management, it could be technical product owner, it could be just product owner. So going ahead, business analyst, data analyst, these are also very good jobs that gives you a portal and maybe a stepping stone to being a product manager. Apply to everything, I would say, that feels like a good fit to you. Rest, a lot of it would come from LinkedIn networking. Cold application has not helped me even once. Like 500 applications and nothing got me anything. I had to really network my way through to get a hiring manager or to get a recruiter look at my profile. So cold application is your best bet. Go to LinkedIn, start talking. If you don't know, connect with me. I will give you all the templates that I have used in this particular 3-4 months of job searching. And other thing is just being active. One day also, if you lose, I would say that is a loss in consistency. Be consistent with your application. Be true to the vision that you're building for yourself. Because if it's not you, nobody else is. Don't take a holiday until you get the job. So I think do that.
I had a student ask me, do you think I should apply to jobs during the holiday? And the holiday, window starts basically around now for the next 5 weeks. And I paused and I said, you really want to take a 5-week vacation from looking for jobs? And do you think everyone else is taking the same 5-week vacation?
That's right.
The answer is no, you do not take a vacation. You work harder now than ever, because guess what? You're not taking classes during this vacation. This is your time to really work hard on the job pursuit. I think
Right.
Pratik, you were next, and then Fizza.
Sure. So I think I'll start with acknowledging the reality, right? So 2023, everyone knows, was a tough year, and most tech companies hire product manager, and this was not a great year for tech. So we all know the macroeconomics. But now let me tell you good news. 2023 is over, which means the 2024 budget. So if for those people who work in the company and understand how the budget works, 2024 budget will be allocated to the most of the company. So that's when the Q1 and Q2 is when the most company opens their role. And every Fortune 500 follow the same pattern. Q1 and Q2 is the time when most companies go on a hiring spree. So this is the best time if you want to start looking for a product role. So Q1 and Q2 quarter would be a best time. Now, talking about advice, I think Karishma, summed really well, and I can tell you that do reach out to her for LinkedIn template. That's how we connected. They're pretty good. So, and yeah, just
I want
be
to
yours.
add on to that Pratik also referred me to MasterCard, and we connected long before the panel. So
Yes.
that's been one of
Really?
our
I didn't
connections.
know that.
Yeah.
So her
I
LinkedIn
also
template works. I
So
want to tell you.
you guys are far more embedded with each other than I realized. This is amazing.
Yes. So yeah, I think so. As Karishma said, right? LinkedIn, reach out to people, talk to them. The referral definitely helps. And this is a good time, right? Prepare yourself to go for and nail those interviews and practice. I think Faiza mentioned in the beginning, right? You need to prepare well for those interviews. So keep preparing, and maybe there might be few failures, but you just need one job offer. So focus on the one job offer. I think we lost Mark. If maybe Faiza, you were the next, I guess. Can go on.
Yeah.
Ah, Mark is
Mark's
back.
But
You are on mute,
he
Mark.
seems to be muted.
Sorry, guys, I blame it on Comcast. I got dropped there. So, did we leave off with Fizza? Is Fizza next, or did
Yeah,
I?
I think Prateek summed it up well.
Okay.
Now we were waiting for you to hop back on. Now I can go. I think with all this knowledge, just one tip that really worked for me out of curiosity was also that I wanted to know what this job was about, what was building a product was about. And if you are a student, international or not, you have most likely a very good incubation center. Hop onto that. Why I'm saying that is because you have the MBAs there. So as an engineer, you get used to the way they are thinking, which is very important because that's what your peers will be thinking if you move to PM. You will be working on a product most likely 0 to 1 because these are incubation centers. So creating a vision, creating a metric, creating what success looks like, all of that documentation that is super important is something you will get to work hands-on. Now, if you're not able to do that, build your own product. You guys can code. You guys can build it. I could not code. And that was something I always fretted about. So you have, I'm sure you have a great GitHub presence also, but if there is a product you can build, if there is a problem you can find on campus, anywhere around you, create a product around it, create one MVP at least, right? This is the holiday season and like everyone's advising on the panel, you can't rest. So why not use all the theoretical knowledge and put it into application? Why that also helps is that sometimes when you're interviewing with people, or if you're reaching out on LinkedIn, you can be like, hey, and here's a link to my product, more than happy to know your thoughts around it. So that's where you have demonstrated your product skills. And that gives you an edge over a lot of folks who will not be doing that when they will be trying to break into the field. So make use of this time, come up with a product, substantial product, have your story ready. And in your interviews, then you can also talk about your hands-on product experience because that's what they want to know. Most likely that, you know, most often that tell us about a product that you worked on, that's it. Or tell us a product that you like and how would you improve it? These are very basic questions that of course you will read in the books. As Prateek mentioned that you should be reading books. So, but move that theory out and put it in application if you can. And you guys are so smart. I think you can have something before the end of the holiday season already. So have a digital evidence of your competency as a part of your portfolio, a clickable link on your resume, and also drop it in your LinkedIn notes.
So at Northwestern, we make this distinction between the entrepreneurship courses and the product management courses. And I think there is a subtle difference between the 0 to 1 problem, which you can, in some cases, start with technology. You can start from places other than a point of pain. You can look for points of opportunity. You can look for inefficiencies in the market. You could look at a lot of different things. And that's where the MVP comes in really handy, I guess, to be able to demonstrate this is what the new product, this new to the world product that we're talking about here, this is what it would look like. This is what it feels like. This is a tangible manifestation. Sometimes the best you can do is PowerPoint because you're talking about an energy product that might take 10 years to develop. Sometimes you can literally write the code and put it in people's hands. Nolan, I think you were next.
Yeah, I think first of all, fantastic, fantastic answers from the panel here. I wholeheartedly agree with every single aspect of it. I think the only thing I would add to it is really when it comes down to it, especially in the interview, but then also having this come across in the resume, coming back to what's the value that I'm providing to the customer. I've hired a lot of product managers. I've been the product manager, and at the end of the day, the ones that are able to articulate what value did I bring to that customer, how did I solve their problem, is the one that's memorable to me. And there's all kinds of there's lots of technical solutions, especially coming from an engineering background, that you can offer up. And it's easy to take for granted that the audience, the person listening, the interviewer, or whoever the case may be, understands from your perspective what that value is, but that's not always the case. You can't take that for granted. And the real quick example I'll provide is my previous stop. I worked for a professional plumbing, commercial plumbing solutions provider. They made toilets, they made faucets, all those kinds of things. And we added IoT capability. And so basically we're monitoring when the faucets turn on, when someone walks into a stall, when a toilet flushes, and like, okay, you can say, well, we put that all together, and you can monitor all that, and you can see that in real time. But when you combine it together and say, hey, if someone walks into a toilet stall and you detect it, and then they walk out and there wasn't a flush, that's probably an indicator that there's something wrong with that toilet. And that, now you can say, I can send a janitorial staff to go out there and take a look at it, because people are repeatedly going in there, coming out without, using the toilet. And sorry for the crude example, but it was an example where the property owner now sees the value of what your solution is providing. So to be able to articulate, what was the value that I brought to that organization in the context of a product solution, is going to be much more effective than just saying, hey, we put something together that detected when you flush the toilet. So again, always coming back to having the empathy for the customer, understanding what's the value that I'm providing, what is the problem that I'm solving for them, and how did I do that simply?
I love it. That's great. I think especially being able to demonstrate that to people in the case of new to the world type technologies or new to the world applications. I think IoT has been one of the most interesting areas. I see that integrating with automobiles, the connected automobile, the autonomous automobile, and the EV charging problem, which of course has got a lot of IoT applications there. So Mitch Cruel, you've got a question that you posted about half an hour ago, maybe an hour ago. I'll let you go next with your question. I can see that it has to do with what's the best way to learn a market?
Right. So where I work right now, we're kind of like the little guy in our markets. We work in telecom industry, providing enclosures, and we're branching out into the EV space, and we have a pretty good foot in the utility space too. But what we thrive in is really coming in after the fact and providing these solutions to our customers at a less expensive cost to them and a timely manner, and holding really good relationships with them for future business. So what I'm wondering is, what's the best way to learn about where our market is going and the needs of it, and how we can get ahead of our customers to provide these new age solutions to them before our competitors can?
Any thoughts out there? Eric, it looks like you have your hand up first.
Yeah, so I can talk from my experience. Well, first of all, in terms of market need, right, what's its most sought after, we'll definitely hear from the sales organization, right? So that is one input for us as product managers on, what we probably should be working on. But I say probably because we need to be there. It's not about putting the sales team in front of an engineer, right? It's about really understanding the ways, I was said before, how you solve the problems in a way that best meets the customer needs, but also the business needs, right? So that's one way. Another approach, which I think has been extremely useful for me lately, it's about user research. So I know you're familiar with this. So basically, we go out to the field, we talk to a variety of lighthouse customers, and we ask them for their pain point. And usually those meetings are conducted by a professional user researcher. Their goal is to ask questions and to get the input in the most possible and biased way. So we learn a lot. I mean, from pain points from customers. They tell us things we didn't probably imagine. And then we take that back. And then we analyze. And then we see how we can come up with, good product market fit and what features we should be bringing down the road. That helps us a lot because we have direct contact, with customers during input. I involve the product team there, including architecture, engineering, UX, right? Because we all need to hear this. But I found those sessions, extremely valuable. And obviously then the product management role, is key in terms of prioritization or the decision-making, the product strategy, even the business strategy of what we want to do, from there.
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand that your customer is not necessarily your user. When I was in the slot machine business, we would build and design slot machines for the casinos to purchase. The slot managers would make the decision as to what themes and what products and what type of business model they were following. Even the pay tables were often negotiated with the customer, right? The customer being the casino. But if you want to understand how the play and how the play interacts with the user, the player, you really have to do player research. You have to get the players in a room, watch how they interact with the games, especially your competitors' games as well, and see what advantage you have, if any, against your competition. So, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, one more thing I will add, because I heard, competition here multiple times. I think it's important to have the competitive analysis, but more important than that, you need to know your end users, your customers, right? Because yeah, competition may be doing something, but could we question their decision? Why not, right? So it's really important that first we really understand what we need to solve, and then of course we can contrast it and do our due diligence of what's available out there in the market.
Yeah, when I teach the Motorola handset cases, for example, the Droid 2 case, one of the problems that I think Motorola had on the handset side was losing the connection to the user. We were so focused on the carrier, we were designing products for the carrier that were not appealing to the user. And Apple came in and disrupted that by saying, here's a product that was designed for the user, and the carriers could take it or leave it. And that was the beginning of a very different paradigm in the industry. So thank you, Eric. I think I see Pratik next, and then Charisma. Was that right?
Yes, Mark. So, few thoughts. I think I definitely echo Eric's point. You need to understand the customer pain point, and the only way you can do is by talking to a customer. So, a lot of times, this is from the industry, right? They would be executive who will have a great idea, and let's build this. And then we might build the product, but when we go and sell it, it might not be what the customer wants. So we could save millions of dollars and a lot of time if we start talking to the customer first. So listening to the customer pain point and talking to them before building product is always a good strategy. Now, again, talking about industry trends, there are a lot of newsletters, industry reports that you can follow, or simple by subscribing to Wall Street Journal. I think personally, I love Wall Street Journal. There's a section that you'll probably can give you a lot of information what's happening in the finance world or fintech world or what's disrupting. So there are plenty of, and again, it's a double-edged sword. There's so much information out there with a Google search. What matters is what's the information right for you. So it's your product, you know the best. And I think you should just focus on what's improving your product by listening to your customer, because at the end of the day, if it's a good product, you will sell it.
I think that's key, is keeping up on what's happening in the industry, what's happening in the market, what's happening with your company or your target company if you're applying for a job. And Wall Street Journal is a fantastic resource. All of our MEM students get it for free, by the way, as part of their tuition. I'm not sure they all access it every day, but they certainly could at no cost. So Charisma.
That's a good selling point.
Yeah, it's a good selling point.
I still have
Charisma.
access to it. I still have access to it, and I still use it.
You still use it. That's great. You get access as a student?
Yeah, I still have. I don't know how, but my library card still works.
Well, I'm sure I didn't hear that. I'm not supposed to hear that. I think we were supposed to turn that off months ago.
Oh, I am not sure why I mentioned it now. Okay. So I think, Rule, you have a question that's about scaling and being innovative as you scale, right? That's what I gathered from the question. First thing, I think, coming from your space, first, it is to be thinking about how the customer is solving it right now. You mentioned that you're coming in a smaller space and they're already doing it somehow through the big customers. You have to see what exactly is the thing they're using to solve it right now, and if there is a better way to do it. If there isn't and they really love the solution, I don't think you have to go and just disrupt it just because you want to. If there's a need for your solution, you have to think on that. And being innovative would come only when you understand the solution, existing solution, to a way you can optimize it. The other thing, some question that really helps me go by the customer interview is, after the customer interview is done and the pain point is done, I really like to ask the customer, what is your long-term view? Like, what is the bigger picture that you see that this product can become, or this product can help you solve? And that long-term view of the customer can really help you get your own vision of the product. They can come up with really crazy ideas. You don't have to build all of them. But some ideas, you can stick to it. You can think what is the feasibility of it, or what is the real life solution right now, how you can build it. And getting that long-term view from the customer would get you being in the innovation or the innovative space of what you want to do in future. And if scaling is one of your thing, it is definitely going out, talking to the customer, selling it as much as you want. uh, Getting a good marketing team will also help you scale and demonstrate your potential. So if you have a good potential, go ahead, go with your product led growth. The PLG is the new term, I feel. So help make your product the spokesperson of your service, and that would really help you market in the right way.
All right, thank you. I see that Sunil Jain had a question, but I don't believe Sunil is on. So I'm going to open it up to anyone who is still on the call who has a question for the panel before we break away. Are there any questions out there? I don't see any. Nothing's being posted. I guess I do want to thank the panelists and also give them one last chance, I guess, one last word. Anyone has anything they want to jump in with? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Vijant here, Vijant Kohli. Yeah.
Hi, Vijant. How are you?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for conducting this panel. Like this session was really important and really insightful. I got I think a lot of new connection requests to send to everyone. At the same point, got a lot more feedback for job hunting. So I'm coming, like a little bit about me. I'm coming from the software engineering background. I have 8 years of coding experience, and my last job was back in India at Microsoft. So I just want to know one thing, like as Karishma has mentioned about some of the SQL tactics that SQL knowledge that we need for the product hunting and product management job. I just want to know, are there any new technologies that we need to learn, or what is the best way to get acquaintance with that technologies, and how do, as a last follow-up question will be, how do these technologies actually help in a day-to-day life of a product manager?
Right. I think I'll take that. And Vijay, if you want to go first.
I guess go ahead, Karishma. It looks like you've already jumped in. So.
Oh, okay. So Vijay, I mentioned SQL because that was the role I was looking for, like a data product manager. That is very important for me in my role. And still now I do a lot of hands-on SQL as well. So getting that was important for me. You have to see what product you're interviewing for or what you're interested in, and build a profile or technical skills around that product, around that domain. What tools would really help you? I think if you go back to the product management course and the first PPT that Professor Birju shares with us, it has, I think, more than 50 tools, each for UI, each for UI, each for customer interviewing, for survey collecting, and PPT building. There's more than 50 tools. I don't go ahead and, of course, learn those 50, but learn the ones that interest you and that are used. Figma is something that UI team really uses in my company, and that would help you learn via framing on Figma, learn the connection that's going on. SQL helped me having hands-on experience with Jira, Confluence, and other agile tools. That helped me. So there is a host of tools that you could learn, but you have to navigate and summarize it only based on your job role and your technology that you are working for. What was the other part of the question? I think you said why it is important.
Yeah, exactly. Like how often do we use data analytics in the PM job on a day-to-day basis?
I often again would depend on the job role. If I have to talk about my job role, I use a lot of Figma, a lot of SQL. I use a lot of Jira. Most of my time is either on the ADO board or on the Jira, talking to the customers and talking to the team itself and writing the user stories. So those tools are a day-to-day activity, and it would differ. It's nothing that I could say this is what you need to know. It would differ based on your progress within the role.
Okay, thank you, Karishma. Yeah, that's so much.
I think Fizla has her hand up too. I think she wants to jump in, right?
Yeah, I think hats off to Karishma for persevering in this job market. And I'm sure it gives a lot of job aspirants some hope that you can break into it. To add another strategic layer to this would be, if you have been an engineer for 8 years, one of the questions you will be asked is, why do you want to change? Right? To have your story in a way that shows that, okay, you have been an engineer, but you have a knack for PM through real life examples, demonstrating that in your interviews is going to be key. Very seldom, at least in my experience, do they ask you to demonstrate hard skills right away. Yes, they will say something like, okay, tell us a time you worked with data, right? Now, whether or not you want to use tools in that, what that story was, is again up to you. But it's very important to know your journey so far, how in that journey you've demonstrated PM skills. That will take you to the next round, which could be more in depth for technical stuff. But the why and the vision and what value proposition your current experience brings is essential to get past like the initial filter. So I think as much as you focus on your hard skills, practicing latest trends, of course, AI is big. You have to be well versed with what is happening in the industry, because that's another key trait that PMs have to have, knowing the competition in the market, right? It's also essential to know how, after 8 years being an engineer, you are a good fit for PM and how you've demonstrated that in those 8 years that led you to that path.
Got it. That was really insightful.
Yeah, that's a great point. Any other comments for Vijay?
Maybe I can answer it.
Sure.
So it's in a simple way, reverse engineer. So go to the job description that you want to look at what are the tools and skill sets that your dream role needs, and start working backwards. So again, the tool works in a different way, right? Each company has their own tool. Like we use Jira, we used to use Rally before, now we switched to Jira. So each company, like how each company has a different PM title, each company uses different tools. So some of the big names that you might hear, like Jira, it's good, really good, but honestly, you don't have to really understand. It's a very easy tool. You can learn it on job. So if you're spending time on learning Jira, I would say use better use of your time. I would say Tableau is something good, because again, the question of why these tools, right? The data tells a story, which I'm going to use Faiza's point. You need to use those data points to sell a story, to sell it up. It's like up management. As a product management, you need to sell your story to senior stakeholders. And you can't say, hey, I want to build this feature because it's great for me. Why? Okay, if I go and tell my executive, like, hey, this feature will bring $10 million, a customer will bring 10% more volume, GDP volume, will drive the card not present volume, will do this, will do that. That data will help me get better prioritization and will convince the executive to fund it for the next years or for next agile. So that's a reason why you need, again, data is used as just a garbage unless you tell a story out of it. It's just numbers. So that's important. Regarding tools, I think there are top few one like Jira, Figma if you want to use design, Adobe and Figma the top one, Tableau and Domo is one for analytics, SQL and Python for doing any coding. That's what most of the people uses, and I think those are the key, I would say, tools. And bare minimum, most Fortune 500, learn how to make beautiful slides. Trust me, that's what I do half of my time.
Okay.
You're not getting away from PowerPoint, unfortunately, unless you work in Amazon. I'll take back my statement.
Okay.
I'm going to point out two things for the Northwestern students that are online. I know not everyone is on here from Northwestern. Data Camp is available to all of our students. You can learn things like Tableau or SQL or Python using Data Camp at no cost to you. Since we're entering a vacation period, this might be a good time to, hone some of these new or create some of these new skills. Exponent is a new tool that we've started that is a cloud-based tool. I see Fizza shaking her head. Yes. So is this something that was worthwhile, Fizza? Exponent?
No.
100%. I think I think I have invested in it. So I love that NU MEM has a subscription available. Why it's also important is because it helps you stay relevant. Now that I'm on a job, and I think there's a lot of FOMO for me on what's happening in the industry, because after a while your job becomes predictable, your stakeholders are known to you. So to stay relevant, also these interview or knowledge bases really help. And of course, for breaking into product management, like I didn't have that at my time. So I think this really gives you an insight on how to speak coherently and in a manner that really hits the interviewer's question. You know, oftentimes we steer away from what is being asked. This entire package really helps you understand the importance of tying your product strategy to your company's strategy. And that happens in real life too. That happens at Amex also, the way we work at PM. And after that too, it really helps. So I love it. I'm a big fan.
So product management is a language, just like accounting or just like business. And as a language, I think tools like Exponent help you hone your own language skills with regard to product management. Karishma, it looks like you wanted to say something.
I'm a spokesperson for Exponent as well. I love Eric that he made the software. One thing in Exponent is something called as mock interviews. In CDT time, it happens 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. both times in a day. I remember I've gone to like 25, 30 mock interviews and I've done them. And in my experience, I've gotten Microsoft director interviewing me. I've got PMs with 8 and 12 years of experience interviewing me. And that is something that is non-transferable, like those skills, that the experience of talking to them and learning from them, you have to try it if you haven't yet. So go ahead and try the mock interviews. It'll really help you get a good base of your interview experience.
And Fizza mentioned something about ChatGPT can also give you some mock interview preps. But if you want, I think ChatGPT is a couple of years old when it was scraped, right? So I think you might want, I think the Exponent will probably give you more leading edge, state of the art, you know, what's the current language of the trade. Any other last minute comments before we break away? I know the panelists have been fantastic. This panel session has exceeded my expectations. I'm hoping it exceeded all of yours as well. But I want to see if there's any last minute thoughts from any of the panelists before we break away. Okay, Nolan, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I just kind of parting thoughts. If you want to, in my experience with product management, kind of 3 things as takeaways. Number 1, learn how to communicate succinctly. It's going to take you a long way, further than you would expect. Number 2, walk a mile in your customer's shoes. That develops that empathy, develops that humility to understand what's really the problem. And the third is the KISS method, right? Keep it simple, stupid. So as simply as you can create solutions is usually going to be the most compelling. So those 3 things was what I would leave with.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nolan. Pratik, it looks like you unmuted. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say something. Okay, I'll just say my favorite motto. This too shall pass. So remember, this will pass, and 2 years or 4 years from now, you will be sitting with Mark on this panel talking to future students. So remember this too shall pass. It's just a phase. I'm sure you're gonna land in your dream job. So hang in there, and yeah, it will all work out.
You wouldn't need
I'll have a lot more gray hair.
Just one.
Yes, so you just need one offer.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, it's like you wouldn't need 4 years, you would just need one. I'm here back in a year. So 1 year is enough if you really pursue well in what you want to do. My parting thoughts would be, I know market is tough. You have to put in more efforts than your previous. So do not compare yourself to anyone. Build your own journey. Do not compare yourself to your peers, to your colleagues, anything. They have their own journey. So go ahead, try your best. Everything will work out, and that's what you just need. One offer, and you can be sitting at a panel like me. So,
and as you say that, I'm reminded of the many students who had multiple offers this last year. And so there's other problems that come with having multiple offers. For example, when you accept an offer and then you get another one that's better. In our culture, we really prefer that you take the original offer. If you accepted it, you should follow through. Don't renege. We think of reneging as very bad for you, for the program, and for the reputation, your reputation, as well as your successors that come following you. Fizza, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just final thoughts, like on if you are an engineer and considering to switch, to PM. Again, know your why you want to do that. Know the ugly parts of the PM role, and whether you want to sign up for that risk. Know that it could be a one-way street. Are you comfortable with that? Finally, have a demonstration of your product skills that you can talk about in your interviews. So it shows that you do have it in you to kind of, think like a product manager with your engineering experience as your armor. And yeah, I think Brett, everyone else really covered well. And I would just say, see Karishma as your hope. If she made it, there is hope. You will be able to make it too. You will have your success stories as well.
Of course, Karishma has
Thank
been
you
one of
so
the most talented MEM students we've had. So I'm sure that we'll all succeed with given enough
Yes.
effort and time and focus and flexibility. But I think that's an interesting point. You got to stick with it. Any other last minute comments? The why is important, and the project manager is different from the product manager. And we make that distinction, at least within MEM. While the product manager has a passion for the product and a passion for the market and a passion for the problem to be solved, the project manager is a little bit more internally focused on the team, the budget, the schedule, the processes followed, and they're complementary. They work hand in glove with each other to succeed. Some companies actually mix those two together and say, well, the product manager is the project manager. But I would say if you've got a different orientation, if you're more interested in how the team functions, if you're more interested in how the budgets are set and how schedules are created and how to hit your schedule and hit your quality and hit your requirements on a case-by-case basis, then really project management might be better for you. And who knows, maybe one day we'll have a panel session just on project management. But for now, I want to thank you all. Eric, you're unmuted. So do you want the last word?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Mark, yeah, following on that, on what we all say, I think it's really important. If you're really looking to transition, that means that you think you have a reason, right? So explore that as much as you can. Take your time. Don't rush, right? If you're already working as an engineer, you probably have already a very interesting job. So take your time, really understand the why, talk to as many product managers as you can, because maybe at the end of the day, it's not what you expected. Maybe you discover something different, but in any case, and if possible, enjoy the journey. Sometimes, when we're planning to a new position, sometimes, there's a bit of stress. What do we do here? And I would say, if possible, enjoy the process because it's beautiful. It's networking. You're gonna talk to a lot of people. You're gonna learn about what they do, what matters to them, what their advisors are willing to share with you, right? How you apply it to your life. So, definitely, hopefully that was helpful for all of you today. Our discussion and yeah, happy to help in the future as needed as well.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking forward to meet you again. I think last time me and Eric met was during the Student Industrial Advisory Board. I think now in Jan again, I am looking forward to meet you again. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
So I got one last question for I guess maybe Eric, since I think you opened the Pandora's box here. Is it okay for an engineer to take a job out of a program like MEM that's not product management with the eye towards eventually becoming a product manager? For example, there aren't that many product management jobs, let's say, right? So was it okay to start as an engineer or senior engineer out of an MEM program and then progress? Or should I hold out for that product management job no matter what? What do you think? Eric, anyone?
Sorry, I was muted. I think it's important to explore, right? So it's good you set your goals, right? And you have to start somewhere. And the better and with more granularity you set your goals, probably the more likelihood of success you will have. But at the same time, it's very important to be flexible. So if something different comes along the road, don't close your doors. Keep exploring that path if that is what you like as well.
And I guess I'll point out that in many industries, the word product manager doesn't have much meaning. So medical devices, aerospace, defense, construction, even the utilities industry, or perhaps wind and solar. they don't have product managers per se. They have project and program managers. So just recognize that the term is somewhat industry specific. Pratik, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just to point out, right, the one point from my own story. So I know product management is hot right now, but when I was graduating from MEM, consulting was the next big thing. So, and as like every other MEM student, I wanted to be a consultant. And I got into one of the best consulting firm, McKinsey. I'm sure everyone knows about it. And I hated it. My first few years were interesting. Like, I loved the getting the miles and points, staying in fancy hotels, but was it worth 8 years? Now I look back with the pay I was getting as an entry-level business analyst. I was working, I was having long hours, I was always stressed out. So now I think about it, and after 2 years, I didn't like it. So within 1 year, I was very sure that I wanted to leave. So after 1.5 years, I started transitioning into my exit strategy. So repeating again, so grass is always greener on the other side. That's something that I have learned. So there are different stories, right? This is something that I like. I didn't like my time, and I have few friends who are still with the firm. They love time, they McKinsey, and are like core, and they can't work anywhere else except consulting. So it's the answer is always unique. It's your story, it's your journey. Figure it out how you want to do. And regarding what I think it depends on situation, right? If you have a student loan, if you're on visa, you need to get job, whatever job you get. So let's face it. But if there's a different story, if you can wait, you want the right one, go wait it out. No one is gonna tell you what to do. It's your career. You define it.
So once again, thank you all. Thank you to the panelists. I thought this was a fantastic panel. We captured the entire thing on a recording. That recording will be updated and uploaded to YouTube. I will send the link to Robert Burke, Bob, and you will be able to distribute it to all who were registered for this session. Otherwise, I want to thank you all. I want to thank the participants, the panelists. I thought it went very well. We had a lot of great discussion. Any last comments before we break away?
Thank
If
you, Mark,
not,
for inviting.
Okay, thank you, Pratik, in particular. I know we brought you in from Hopkins. You probably felt a little like a fish out of water.
No, it's all good. I think it's all about I got to learn so much from the panel. So
That's great.
it's
And then we're all MEMPC under the
exactly.
standard. So we're all one
Exactly.
big brotherhood. So thank you all. And everyone take care. Have a great rest of the weekend. It's beautiful outside. Let's get some sunshine. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
you
Thank you,
all.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Eric. You did a great job.
Thanks, Mark. Bye.
And thank you for volunteering, by the way, for that session in Chicago, right? The field trip.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we look forward
Absolutely.
to it. I think the date looks good. And I think we just need to get a registration system going on our side. And is there a max number, like 20, 25?
I can sync with you afterwards with that.
Okay.
But yeah, the idea would be if we could do something like last year. That was what I had in mind. But if you have any specific requests, I may look to accommodate it. So we can talk about that.
Yeah, I assume we'll be downtown, not Elgin, right?
Yeah, Chicago downtown.
Chicago downtown. Okay, sounds good. Take care. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for hosting, Bob.
Thank you all for attending.
Okay, take care. I'll send you the link. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.